Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Today y Mañana. I'm Alex. This is Xavier. We're really excited to have you joining us today. We've done a fun show for you planned today. As always, we are presented by Emergent Financial Services. We are powered by Cristel, Noel, State Farm, and we are partnering with Forward Adelante, the premier Latino networking group here in Charlottesville, Virginia. This is going to be a blast. We're going to have David and I going to talk, as always. We're going to have a little financial talk to start it off.
Chit-chat.
Then we're going to have Melody Robbins of Melody Robbins Photography. It's going to be a lot of fun interview. Melody is such a fun person.
It is,
to be
yes,
around.
yes.
So that's going to be great. And then later on in the show, we're going to have Nickolas Urpi, the one and only. He'll talk to us a little bit finance, a little bit what he's been up to in Charlottesville.
I like to find out what he's been up to.
You know, well, all
he
those
certainly
times
doesn't tell us.
Exactly. All those times you don't see him, you're gonna be like,
In the
where
office,
have you
that's
been?
right. Where's he been?
All those
What's he
times,
doing?
Well, whenever he has those meetings that last 2 hours, then where has he
That's right.
been? You know, and then you find out he's been to Guajiros.
You notice he's the only
been
one
to a
that doesn't
different
put
restaurant.
anything on the calendar, and then he's just not there. Right?
I don't think he even uses the firm calendar. He's
That-
like, oh,
that's-
is that
that's the
was
point.
that today on the calendar? We're like,
Exactly.
yeah, Mitch, it's on the calendar. Oh goodness.
We can beat him up a little later.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
We can. We'll have plenty of time to make fun of him. But be sure to share, let your friends know that we are live. Let us know if you have any questions for Xavier and I. We are very happy to take questions. We had some great question. We had a great question from Andre Xavier a couple
right.
weeks ago.
That's right.
That led to last week's topic. So be sure to let us know if you have anything you want us to talk about, anything you're wondering.
And that's a key word, wondering.
Wondering.
Just trying to figure out how, what's going on, what's happening, why is it happening, and,
Exactly.
and what's the impact on people's lives or on people's finances. That's what's important.
It's a crazy time. There's a lot of noise out there, which I think is something we've been itching to talk about because, I mean, let's face it, we're in an environment, financially speaking, in the markets where you turn on a CNBC or a Fox Business, and within the space of an hour, the market is finished, it's over. When I see it collapse, no, it's just the beginning.
That's right.
This is going through the roof. And then Bitcoin is no, it's over. Bitcoin is finished. It's going to be banned. It's like no more. It's going to go down to zero. And then 30 minutes later,
It's up
Bitcoin
10%.
is going to 60, 70, 80, $100,000. It's like there's no end to the differences.
No. It's we talk about noise all the time, right? And I mean, without any doubt. I mean, listen, the world is constantly changing and spinning. So things happen without us knowing that it's going to happen, and that's the fun part of. In a way, that's the fun part of life, and that's the fun part of investing is the fact that things do change. I mean, if it was the same every single day, I mean, to a certain respect, it'd be a boring life, right?
Exactly.
But the question is, what do you do with that information, right? And I mean, look at this morning. The unemployment claims came out, and it was 419,000. And what does that mean? Unemployment claims means that people are looking for insurance, right? Because they don't have a job, right? Mm-hmm. So the expectation was 350,000. It came 419,000. So the market didn't like that, and for good reason, right? Because we came out of 2020, right? A horrendous year from the perspective of employment. We come into 2021 with high expectations, and all of a sudden, every once in a while we hear about a new variant, a new Delta. What's going to happen? Are we going to have to shut down? I mean, Australia is already shutting down. France is thinking about shutting down, and people on the street complaining. So you have a dichotomy there of the people themselves saying, no,
don't do this
we
again,
want to
please.
live, and government saying, what do we do? Should we shut
do?
down? I mean, they feel responsible, saying we can't allow
can't put
this
people's
to
lives
happen.
at risk.
So, what is the financial markets sitting there saying? Well, if they shut down, the economy is going to once again begin to go down the drain, right? But if they don't shut down, then it should do better. So every single day, the market is reacting to this type of news, right? And then you have other, I think it was yesterday, right? That Musk and Kathy Wood and what's the other guy from Twitter, Dorsey?
Dorsey.
They all met and talked about, Bitcoin, or they talked about cryptocurrencies, right?
Your facial expression there makes it clear what you think about Kathy Wood, Jack Dorsey, and Elon Musk
No.
of Bitcoin.
Oh, their opinion.
No. I mean, not them personally.
Not them personally.
It's your favorite expression tells us all we need to know about how much stock you put in what they think is going to happen in Bitcoin.
So these three people talk, and Kathy Wood says she thinks Bitcoin is a great inflation hedge, right? And it should go up 10%, right? And in the same day, you have, I think, that gentleman, famous guy, what's his name? And I wrote it down here, Jeremy Grantham, right? And he's saying that it's the top and that basically Bitcoin could collapse. So you're an investor, a daily investor, right? And you sit there and you go, oh, Kathy Wood said it's going up 10%. And then you read on the other side and says, well, this guy says it's going to collapse. So should I buy for the 10% and then sell it because it's going to collapse, or do I not buy it? This is the kind of information, this is the kind of noise, right, that drives people crazy and also drives
very
people
easily
to make
leads to mistakes.
Exactly, drives people to make mistakes.
You buy Bitcoin in the morning because Kathy Wood says it's up 10%. You sell it in the afternoon because the guy says it's done. Grantham says it's done a trash.
Right.
That chasing return is a classic financial mistake, right? You always say, that guy with that fund was up 100% last year. I'm going to buy him.
Yeah.
And that was his bad year. So now you're like, he didn't do well this year. That guy did really well this year. He was up 60%.
Exactly.
You buy him and said, well, now he doesn't do so well the next year. And so it's the classic mistake of, right, you keep switching because you don't know who to believe. There's so much out there. Oh, he did well. He was right last time. He looks like he might be right this time. How do you know what to do?
That's right. And I mean, and the important thing is, that's why research is so important, because people do that, right? They say, oh, this fund did great last year. I mean, I really should be in this fund, right? What they don't realize is that, maybe that fund was in technology last year. Technology did extremely well, right? But that doesn't mean that technology is going to do well every single year,
exactly.
Right? So he's maybe getting out of value going into technology, and the next year value's doing well, like it did this year. And you sit there and go, oh man, well, let me go back. You can't do that. You should never chase returns. And we talked about this many times, and for good reason. That's why diversification is so important, right? I mean, it's important. We talk about not having all your eggs in one basket, right? It's not even that. Even within the eggs, there are brown eggs, there are white eggs, there are organic eggs, spotted eggs. Exactly. So you want to diversify even in the stock market. You can't say, I'm just buying this and that's it. You have to say, well, there are tons of different type of funds out there. And again, you want to diversify. And then there's nothing wrong with saying, I really think that, robotics is going to be the big mover this year. Or I like robotics for the next, 5 years. I think it's fine. Take a little piece, buy robotics. There's an ETF, go buy it. And that's fine. But you can't be moving in and out of these particular sectors.
Exactly. In
right?
other words, if you believe in robotics over the next 10 years, you buy robotics and you hold it for the next 10 years.
Yes.
You don't buy it, it goes down 10%, you're like, oh no, this was a bad idea, let me sell it 6 months later. In other words, if you have a long-term conviction on something, you have to be willing to accept that it's a long-term proposal. Granted, if you have a short-term idea, right, if you think something's going to go up in 6 months, it doesn't happen, you got to get it. You get out. You don't sit there and say, well, maybe in the next 6 months it'll happen. But if you have a long-term conviction of something, you think something's going to be really great, like clean energy. I believe in clean energy for the next 20 years. Well, then you don't buy a clean energy ETF for the next 6 months.
That's right.
You buy a clean energy ETF for the next 20 years.
That's right.
So you have to always be thinking, what's my time horizon for me personally, right? And what's my time horizon for this idea that I supposedly have conviction in?
Exactly, and so here's a question for you, because this, I always scratch my head about this, and we've talked about it, you and I. But so I read also today that that corporations, right, they buy back their stock, right, and we reached $1 trillion this year, right. So what is your thought on that? I mean, you think about that, and I've always said, when you buy back your stock, right, that corporation is basically saying, there's nothing out there that I can do better with my money than to buy my own stock.
That's always been my concern. So, and it would seem like something that would be impossible, right? How can a corporation buy its own stock? But what happens is they have cash on hand, there is stock in the stock market, and they basically just absorb it back, and now there are less shares out there.
And why do they do that?
They do that. And they do it, of course, to push up the price, right? It's a supply and demand. You add another person pushing up, buying more shares, right? Now there's less shares available, so you simultaneously reduce. So when a corporation buys its stock right back, typically what they will do, not always, but typically what they will do is that stock is no longer free floating on the market. They basically will absorb it into the treasury of the corporation and say, instead of 2 million shares of this company, I bought back 200,000. Now there's only 1.8 million shares out there. So you simultaneously added some demand. You're pushing, oh, look, they're buying the stock. They must think it's great. And you've reduced the supply of your stock.
But what's the incentive? I mean, in other words, if you're a company, and you know I'm digging you, you know that, right? So, but if you're a company and you have cash, free cash flow, right? You would think they say, what can we invent? What can we invest in that is going to make this company even better, as opposed to buying the stock? Because let's face it, if there's 100 companies out there, and all 100 companies are buying their stock because they think they're the best bet, 99 of them are wrong.
I know, exactly.
I mean, only one of them is the best. So what's the incentive for the company to buy back their own stock?
It's exactly what you said at the beginning. They have no other.
Well, either that or
ideas.
Maybe stock options.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to take into the short term. I think that's part of what you're getting at, which I think is also the case, right?
It's part of it.
You have CEOs, I would say. The management of a company, the board of directors, if you own shares in the stock and you don't intend to be around in that company for a long time and you have options, you push up the price of your own stock, you exercise your options, meaning you turn the option to buy into an actual stock.
That's right.
Now you can sell the stock, you're home free. If the company crashes in 10 years because you didn't invest in any useful projects,
Well, you care.
you're not, what do you care?
Right.
You made your money.
That's what.
It's
See,
a
those
short-term
are the
incentive.
things that bother me. Is that a lot of these companies have become very short, short focus because of the fact that the incentives are made in such a way that it is more beneficial to a few, right, to buy back their stock.
Exactly.
Now, granted, that doesn't mean there's a lot of. I mean, there's a lot of investment funds out there. There's a lot of mutual funds out there. There's a lot of pension plans out there that, yeah, I mean, if that company's price goes up, then those pension plans would have gone up. However, those pension plans, those mutual funds, investments are long term. You're not buying something for the next 3 to 6 months.
It doesn't benefit a pension plan in the long run if the stock went up 10% this year, but then the company crashes 10 years from now. Because the pension plan's still going to be around 10 years from now. The management of a company, if they're no longer around or they've already sold out, they're like, what a shame. I didn't do a great job, but I made out with a bunch of money. I got a nice severance package. Then I'm not going to be punished for driving this company into the ground. Instead, I'll be rewarded for it.
That's right.
So it's just a perverse
Yeah.
incentive. And I think it's also, I think, a lack of ideas. Right? But as you sit there, a really good manager might sit there and say, well, if we do this, I have a rate of return on this project that might be 10% annually. If you don't have that, and every one of the companies coming to you and saying, well, this project might give us 1%, this one might give us 2%, and you're sitting there, well, I can get 3% just buying back my own stock.
That's right.
Or issuing dividends.
Yeah.
That's what you're going to do.
Yes.
Because you're going to sit there and say, well, you don't have anything better for me than what I currently am doing. So let's just keep doing what we're doing, buy back the stock, maybe borrow some money at very low interest rates to afford. It's one thing, right? It's one thing if you're borrowing at 4 or 5% and using the money to buy back your own stock. It's another thing if you're borrowing at 1% and using the money to buy back your own stock.
There's a huge difference.
Right? There's a huge difference in what the company can do. Because it's very easy for my stock to return more than 1%. If you had to borrow at 5, you might be sitting there saying, well, what if this doesn't work out?
Without any doubt. I mean, low interest rates has created the ability to leverage at very cheap prices, right? Because leverage means you're borrowing, right? You're borrowing you're borrowing based on what you already have, right? So in other words, if you have $100,000 worth of stock and you can borrow $30,000 or $60,000 based on that and borrow it at 1% or 2%, that's cheap. Yeah. When interest rates are 6-7%, that was much more expensive because now you're saying, Now the market, or whatever I'm doing with this money, has to go up 6%. Now you're saying it just has to go up 1 or 2%.
Exactly.
And I can easily buy a stock that
Exactly.
maybe has a 3% dividend, and I'm saying, okay, I'm making money, I'm not losing money, and hopefully that stock goes up.
Exactly. It's a totally different
Yeah.
scenario. And it's something to be cognizant of as
Right. I mean, it's not
as
what
an
you want to
investor,
do.
right?
Yeah. I mean,
there's not much we can do about it as as small investors. We're not activist investors with millions of dollars to
Right.
be able to go in there and say you have to change your behavior. But I think it does again speak to just the value of diversification, right? Like you said, 100 companies, 99 of them are buying their own stock. They're all 100 companies buying back their own stock. 99 are probably wrong.
yeah. Only
Right,
one of them is
right.
going to be the best stock that year.
The problem is, who knows which is the one?
Exactly.
Right? So you buy all 100, and you go.
And they're all
from there.
buying back, so they're all
And
going to
they're
go
all
up,
buying
right?
back, so they're all going to go up slightly.
Exactly.
So it's always the key is you don't have to be the winner.
Right.
Right? You don't have to pick the best stock or get the most return out of anyone in a given year. The goal is to get return.
That's right.
The goal is to do well, right? To make sure that you have growth for your retirement. So diversify your portfolio.
Sure.
And yeah, maybe some guy down the street picked one and he picked the winner and he's up 400%. You're sitting there saying, well, I'm only up 30%.
That's fine.
Take the 30%.
Exactly. Because there's some other guy who
There's some
picked
other guy who picked the loser,
and he's down
like,
10%.
oh, goodness, why did I pick this one?
That's
The
right.
whole stock market's up and I picked the one loser.
That's right.
And you just need to slow and steady, grow your retirement. A 7% return a year sounds low. It doubles your money every 10 years.
That's right.
Right? You sit there and say, 7. Why would I want 7 when the S&P 500 could be up 12, 13? Somebody was up 30.
And don't forget, so that's the miracle or the beauty of compounding. So think of it this way: if you start at 20 years old, right? Well, let's say you start 20, and you got $100,000, right? I mean, you're lucky if you got $100,000 when you're 20. But I mean, and if that doubles in 10 years, that means in 10 years, right? You have 200. That 200 then doubles in the next 10 years, so now 400. That 400 doubles the next time, that's 800. And that's the beauty of investing.
And it's a 7% return.
Only 7%.
Which
right?
looks like a very small
And
number.
investing early and staying on top of it is the most important. And that's
Exactly.
that chart, remember we talked about, if you can invest your money very early on for the first, when you're when you're 20, and from 20 to 30, just invest your money and never do it again, you're better off than anybody else that starts a little later. It's just amazing. And it's because, as you said, because that
power
money
of
doubles.
compounding, Yep.
Yeah.
And it goes to you don't need 30, 40%, 50% returns to be set in retirement.
That's right. Yeah.
7 works. The simple diversified portfolio works.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh man, we have some comments, but they're not very favorable
Uh-oh.
to me. So
To you.
to both of us. So Nickolas Urpi's first question: when do we get to melody? Enough of these two guys bring on the fun. And Olga Morse from Puerto Rico goes segundo a Nit.
All right, so let's go to melody.
Apparently, our guests are like, I'm tired of Alex and Xavier. Let's get some melody on here because we want to have some fun. So we are really excited.
We are.
Are also excited to have Melody Robbins on our show with us today from Melody Robbins Photography. Melody, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. We're excited to have you on.
Look at that smile. See, that smile says it all right there.
Thank you.
Our guests are also super excited. So for those who don't know you, I mean, obviously we've got some Melody Robbins fans here. How did you get? I've always wondered this actually. How did you get into photography?
It's a great question. So growing up, I came from a family of 8 children, and my dad was an amateur photographer, and we traveled literally the country for vacation by van, and all of us piled in a van, and we would just travel and sightsee. And my dad always took photos of us everywhere we went. I mean, literally everywhere we went. And I had to get out of those photos because my comfort zone is behind the camera now, obviously. But at the time, I was like, how can I get behind that instead of in front of it? So I had to learn how to take pictures, and then literally just kind of started my trajectory from a young age, and had an awesome mentor in high school who helped me get into photography school, helped me, craft a portfolio for getting into photography school, and then got my degree in photography, and I've literally been doing it my whole life.
Ever since,
So,
wow.
yeah.
That is neat. I wouldn't. That's a cool story.
It is.
How do I get out of the?
That was my motivation. Yes.
To do it. That
Yeah.
makes
How
a
do I get
lot
on the
of
other
sense.
side of that camera, right?
It worked.
Exactly.
And now I'm here in front of the camera again. This is no bueno.
Different camera, though. This is a movie camera.
Different camera, and but here we at least have to pretend that it's not there. I remember
I like
when you would took our photos, because our great executive headshots is Melody, and along with the Facebook picture that I've
Right.
been using for the last 6 years.
I don't have to say how long.
Is Melody Robbins' handiwork. I always remember you're so good at being like, look this way, just move this
Oh,
slightly,
thank
do
you.
this, and then you get us to smile. Which
Well, it's
is the
got to be a
hardest.
genuine smile,
Gotta be
otherwise
genuine.
it's worthless.
And I always remember that with the genuine smile.
That is definitely something I strive for in every photo I take.
That you do. So now you do a combination, because I know you do portraits,
I do.
but you also, I've seen both on your Facebook page and your website, and with Forward Adelante, you've done events, you do live events, you do locations, landscapes. What are some of the things that you say are like your favorite to do that you find both excite you and excite your clients? I mean, too.
So I've been doing this for over 25 years now, so we don't need to say how long. But I started out in portrait and weddings, really, and did that for 20 years. Well, 16 years. Anyway, a long time. But in the last probably 7 or 8 years, I've got into architecture and interior design, which is my
interesting.
happy place.
Ah,
I love it so much because you have this beautiful room that's all nicely designed and it doesn't talk back to you. You don't have to pose it. You don't have to do anything. It's great. But I still needed the people connection. So then I do a lot of, executive portraits, headshots, that kind of thing in my studio. And also live events, which have not happened for the last year and a half,
wow.
which was
But
kind of
hopefully
sad.
soon.
But they are starting up again. So
That's
I've had
right.
a lot recently. It's like, okay, we're back. Yes.
we're back.
Yeah, but I love all that to still have the people connection, but I really love the lines and light and everything in architecture.
So
So.
can you play with it a little more, in terms of how you want it to look? Because I guess with the live
Definitely.
event, people are where they are.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like, I wish you were over there,
Yes.
but you're kind of here, and I'm not gonna
But now that I guess I do both sides of it, I can incorporate, if I'm doing a branding photos for businesses or something, okay, this is your space, well, this is where, I want to place you for the best ambiance behind you, if you will, so.
The lighting and
Yes,
all that, right?
And the
I
look.
love lighting.
I love lighting.
Lighting is my jam.
Lighting is key. Olga says, Melody, you're a wonderful woman and artist. I have several scenes for you to capture around my home.
Oh, happily, Olga, happily.
It's
say
not
when.
too much of a sacrifice to go down
No,
to Puerto
not to
Rico.
No,
Puerto
definitely
Rico.
not.
I could
And,
do
Especially in
and do
January,
some work.
February, March.
that. You just name it when, I'll be there. And I miss you, Olga.
We all miss Olga.
Absolutely.
We wish you were here. My finca, which is farm. Right.
Finca, yes, farm, yeah.
My finca on the
Right.
mountain will not talk back to you either.
I love it. I'll take a little bit of talk back. I can handle it.
You can handle it a little bit. So as someone because you work with a lot of businesses,
I do.
right? Are there certain things that you find, because I know it's really big now for a lot of businesses, you take your own photos of what you're doing. Are there we'll start with the negative and then go to positive. Are there common mistakes that you'll see that people are oh yeah, let me do this, and you as the photographer if you just did this a little differently, it would give a better impression, common things that you see that entrepreneurs should kind of be aware of if they're going to do the DIY.
Yeah, so
method.
there's nothing wrong with taking your own photos to an extent, I guess. Lighting to me is everything. So if you're in a terrible lighting situation and you're trying to post these photos, it really just it doesn't stop people to look and see further what you do. But if you can, composition too, but lighting I think is literally more important than anything, because if you have something that grabs people's attention, they're going to stop and they're going to investigate more, whether it's, reading more text or looking at more photos or whatever it draws them in. But if it's just oh, you're totally backlit and looking, you can't tell what the photo is, it's not eye-catching, then they're just going to move on, so.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
And so I have a question, right? Because in the old days, right, you had the film, you had the negative, you had to develop the negative. And I suspect that photographers are a little more picky about, I'm going to take this picture and then maybe that picture, as opposed to maybe in today's world, because the digital is like, well, let me take 20 of these and 15 of those and 35 of those and see which one works.
Accurate.
Would you say that because of that, it's changed how you perceive photography? In other words, how you look at it, in the sense that you don't have to be perfect because I can just keep taking pictures?
Absolutely. So I think the digital age has definitely led to people just shoot and burn, I guess, like taking just tons of photos to find the good one out of a dozen or more. Because I started in the film era and went to school, like lighting was very important in my schooling. I try to get it all right in camera, and then do just manipulations in Photoshop and I guess on the computer that enhance the photo but not change it. And I think too many people are trying to just get something and then go in and manipulate the heck out of an image to get something usable. And I try very hard to get it as close to perfect in the camera, and then just enhance it a little bit after.
Just what you feel like it's real, right? It's still reality. It's not like what you're seeing in the end result. Well, that's not really how it looks.
Sci-fi or manipulated.
Exactly.
Or whatever,
like if you've done it right with the lighting and in the camera, what you're seeing is the actual image.
Yep.
Versus, the actual image doesn't look remotely like that. He's not even sitting there. He's actually in a different place, and I've just manipulated everything.
And I mean, that's very much my style, is very true to life, very realistic, with a little enhancement, a little softening where we need it.
Well, that always happens also, right? Because I guess when you develop film, right? So you develop the film first, right? In the old days, you develop the film, and then when you did the picture, depending on the chemicals, right? You could also make things a little lighter, a little darker.
Yes.
Is that true?
Yes,
so
absolutely.
so
There's so much you could do in the darkroom, which now is Photoshop.
Exactly.
Basically,
Okay.
You're doing it all on.
It's just probably easy in Photoshop, I suspect.
Yes.
A little easier.
A little bit easier, but the darkroom is fun. I mean, it had its perks.
In Photoshop. It does show you that's kind of why you, certain things especially, I think like the executive shots, right? You kind of want the professional touch in a way,
absolutely.
because you want to get it right and give the best possible presentation of yourself. And you were able to do this. I remember when you took ours, you have like certain lights that are above you. Like you're not just like putting a flashlight and being like, here we go, here's my lighting.
You could do that, but it may not have the best results.
Exactly.
Don't put it under your chin. You will have Halloween lighting. I don't recommend that.
Do like the evil villain look.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
There's so much that is in your studio even is there to try to get the best possible image of the person you're capturing.
Yes, and lighting placement has a lot to do with that too, of like finding the most flattering angles for a person and creating shadows that slim you, or whatever. We all have our flaws or highlights that we need to accentuate,
right.
Or whatever, and just I guess doing it for so long, I can kind of find those quickly. So it's nice to have a polished image. If we're hiding something, Alex. I'm just kidding.
But amazing. This is something that's always interested me. Because I know as an entrepreneur, I often think of photography as like, well, okay, here's what I am selling, and photography is what I take a picture of this thing that I am selling. Whether it's if it's food, you take a picture of my food, and I'm selling food. As someone who is selling pictures, is that like you're selling you as the art of taking pictures. How do you? What would you say are the way you look at this as an entrepreneur? So not just as the photographer side, but also the fact that you are a small business owner. How do you market yourself when what you're selling is also the medium in which you're marketing yourself?
That's a good question. I'm not sure the answer. How do I market myself? Is that ultimately the question?
Yeah. What are the ways you think of or any challenges that you've had as on the entrepreneur side that you've sort of overcome and been like, here's how I do this?
In the end, I should have got a degree in business as well as photography. That's where I lack. But honestly, I have amazing clients that refer me to other people and just connections like you guys. I've been working with Fort Adelante since the beginning. Just meeting amazing people everywhere I go, and then, them referring me to others. But honestly, though, Google SEO has been a huge help in helping find clients. I try to do a lot with SEO, we should say. And it works because clients will Google, photographer in Charlottesville or whatever, and I will come up, So that is very helpful. But referrals are everything in any business. I mean, not even just photography, and they're also the best kind of business, I think, to get, because then you have a connection sort of like, oh, well, my friend used you and they thought you're great, or Alex, you took his headshot and he actually looked good.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding.
That's my biggest selling point when I talk to people about Melody. I'm like, see this? This looks good in that photo. Melody is why.
No, you're great. I'm teasing.
Well, yeah, but then, I think that's so true, right? In any business, there's something special, I think, about the referral.
Right.
Not even just because it's literally like, here, go use them.
Yeah.
But there's already a connection, right?
Exactly. There's an element of trust and a connection.
Exactly. Trust, that's
because
really
in photography, just like in finance, it's trust, right? I mean, we have the trust that you are going to make us look the best we can when we're being presented, either what we're producing, the interior home, the architecture, or us as people. You kind of have to trust that, I trust Melody to make me look the best that I can on camera. Right? And just like you would have to trust the financial advisor. So when someone recommends, it's not even just, oh, now I found someone that I didn't know was there before. It's, I found someone and I already have a little bit of trust in them, but it's my friend uses them.
That's right. And it's always the best. I mean, the referrals are truly the best because you're also much more comfortable. And even just meeting people, be able to say, oh, yes, I know Alex, and, you know, we've done this, we've done that. There's already a conversation forming there, and now there's a stronger connection.
Yeah, and it builds confidence in both sides. I mean, it's like, oh, okay, well, they know you, so obviously, you're a good referral, and basically you're not a terrible photographer if someone referred you.
Exactly. I think there's also a comfort level, like especially for if you're not like a marketing type person, is that, I'll go talk to random strangers. Raise your hand if you don't love talking to random strangers.
I love it.
At events.
I just love it.
Okay,
but
sure, Xavier.
Yeah.
Can't you tell?
I can tell. You're cold calling people all day long.
All day long.
Absolutely.
You don't know me from a hole in the wall, but
I'm your guy.
I'm your guy. Give me your money, even though I don't know you. But it's like, it makes the talk so much easier because it's not a cold call with like a warm call.
Warm call, that's right.
I know Lily, who's your friend, who's with Ford Adelante. Hopefully Lily's watching. She liked this.
Be.
Oh, I mean,
well, she's still in California.
She's still in California.
She's sleeping.
Yeah, she can wake up for this.
She's probably sleeping at 7:52.
Absolutely.
Come on, Lily, get out of bed.
We know that.
Oh, goodness. So one thing I definitely want to make, where can people find you? I mean, let's say we're referring you, Lily's referring, how do people find Melody Robbins to get in touch with you?
You can go to my website, which is melodyrobbinsphotography.com.
Okay.
Probably the best way. Then you can just see the different options that I offer. Email, phone number, and all that is there. So go to my website, check it out.
Nice, yeah. And you do both on-location things, like you'll go to places, and you have a studio.
I do, yes. Actually, my studio is right upstairs from where we are right now.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
That's how there's a privilege. You just have to walk down the stairs.
Like this is really far to go. I can do it. I can manage.
She came a long way to this interview, all the way from upstairs.
And she was here on time, too. That's important.
That is important.
The closer you are, usually the tardiest you are. I don't know how that happens. But
what did you say there? And I got time. But Melody, this has been so much fun.
Thank you for having me.
Long time since we've seen you.
I know, it's been
we
too
used to see you
long.
like 4 or 5 times a year, but now it's
I know. We need more events again. They're starting up though. I've had a couple recently. I'm like, okay, this is happening.
Nice.
We're
Things
thinking
are back.
ourselves of getting that
Adelante,
going.
then running
Yes,
again.
I miss you all very much.
I miss you too. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yes, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Melody.
So good. So good. So we'll be switching shortly to another fun face, another familiar face, maybe too familiar.
Well, to us, it's very familiar.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Right.
Well, it's Melody,
it's
you
a
get to see Melody smile, and you're like,
That's
oh,
right.
Melody. And then We have to replace her with.
No, he's got a good smile.
He has a good
He's
smile.
got a good smile. Yeah.
He has a good smile. And so
Liar.
No, you do.
Liars.
I'm your father. I mean, if you don't have a good smile, I mean,
Well,
who's gonna tell you that?
I'm gonna start off by telling the truth. Xavier has a hard hat.
Has a what?
A hard hat, right? And every day he goes down into the basement where he has 32 servers mining for Bitcoin. Because in private, he tells us, Bitcoin to 70, guys, you just wait and watch. He just got in too late. He bought at 60 and now
I thought it was digging for gold.
No, you're mining for Bitcoin,
I
the
was
real
digging
stuff.
for gold and
Yeah,
oil.
gold,
I mean,
yeah.
this Bitcoin stuff, I don't even know how that works.
You can get oil. We got enough olive oil.
Bitcoin doesn't look good in your hand. Gold. Like,
Exactly.
No,
look at that,
goldish,
look at that.
yeah.
Here, right here, look. See? Look what I found.
We've got so much false gold too in the backyard that you think that we, if we just need some fools is what we need.
Oh, goodness. Sorry, I didn't even introduce you, actually. You just introduced yourself.
I'm just going to introduce.
For
I'm
those who
Nickolas
don't
Urpi.
know, this
I'm
is
related
Nickolas
to these
Urpi.
guys.
That's right.
He's the other Urpi brother.
The other Urpi brother.
Michael, of course, hosted our show with
That's
me.
right.
Other.
About, about a month or so ago.
Yeah.
And now we have Nickolas on.
Exactly.
Welcome,
as
Nickolas.
guest.
Well, thank you, Xavier.
Thank you for joining us
Great
today.
to meet you guys. At last, we've been related for so long.
It's nice to have you on the show. Goodness, we even have, actually, this is completely apropos because we have Nick on and we actually have a comment related to finance. From Fudd Dye, he goes, I can't stress this enough. Your projected retirement should be based on how much you're saving. Don't get wrapped up in the return on investment.
Right.
With investing, if you are looking to retire, focus more on saving over a long period of time. Let your
I-
investors do the hard work, but check up on them every couple of years to make sure you're still on track. I might even say, you can feel free to
yeah,
check up on
check.
us yearly. More than
Quarterly if you want, yes.
Quarterly.
But I
you can
agree,
check on us.
100%. I mean,
We make sure we call our clients for
without
that.
without any doubt, it starts with savings, right? So, I mean, without the savings, the returns are meaningless. Absolutely.
Exactly.
So, and he's right. I mean, the more you look at what you can save and then put it away and let that grow, the better. Yeah.
Exactly. That's the power, right?
Yeah.
And I always say this to people, return cannot make up for time.
No.
In other words, I could be the world's most genius financial advisor. Could be that everything I touch turns to gold. If you come to me at 60 and say, can I retire in 5 years, Alex? There's not much I can do.
That's right.
I could be getting you great returns and you're not going to be able to do it because you just started at 60 years old. Whereas if you start at 20, 22, even, and we have charts that show you can still be in great shape if you start
your
at 30,
30s, yes.
40,
Yeah.
right? If you start early enough and you save sufficiently, right, you can take modest risk, right, looking for that 6 to 7% return, and you will be in great shape. You do not have to be sitting there saying, if I don't get 30% a year, I'm toast. No. You start early, you're disciplined, you save what you can, right? You make sure you
Discipline,
frequently
that's
save
the key word,
and that's the
discipline.
discipline.
Yeah.
Fudd Dye's, he's watching. Thank you for watching. Fudd Dye said, try to save, his thinking is save around 35% of your income if you can.
Yeah. That's a tough one. I mean,
That's
without any doubt.
That's a tough one. I mean, it would be significant.
but if
I mean,
you
the issue
can
is
do that, that's gonna be awesome
some people
over
just
time.
cannot do that, right?
Right.
And that's the point. I mean, it's if you can at least if you have an IRA, if you can maximize the IRA, that'd be great,
Exactly.
right?
I mean, the study we did was maximizing,
Yes.
from age 22 to 30,
Yes.
you save $6,000 a year, which you sit there and say, that's not much. And then
Right.
you never save again. 6% return, age 70, $750,000.
Right. Exactly.
That turns
Which is
into-
also the importance, starting early.
Start young, start
if you
early.
can start early,
Yeah.
remember, we always talk about how like Einstein has that compound interest is the most powerful force in the universe.
universe.
But it's from the time, because the one thing we know he understood was time. It's because of the time. It's not the. I mean, it's
all
true.
relative.
I mean, it's all
It's all
relative.
relative.
Yeah, it's all
It's all
relative. Yeah,
relative.
but it's relative to your returns. I mean, we could go down that road. But the whole point is it's the time element that works.
Exactly, no doubt about it. But the other beautiful thing is that if you start early, you don't have to think about. I mean, if all of a sudden you're 50 years old, says I need to start saving for retirement, you're talking about big chunks. You got to
Exactly.
take out big chunks of money and put it away. And sometimes you don't have that ability. right? Because you can't just say, I mean, you have the ability to save whatever you want, but I mean, with regard to retirement funds, they only allow you to put a certain amount every single year.
Exactly. You start running into
So you
tax
start when
grad
you're
and other
young
issues.
and you say, I'm only going to do $2,000 or $5,000 or $6,000, whatever it may be, right? And you just keep that up, that discipline. Just do it every
keep doing
single year. You'd be surprised where you get to. You know?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's an amazing thing.
We know an investor that says just like eat the Chef Boyardee when you're young, and then you'll be like feasting on lobster when you're old, which is a little extreme, right?
That's the
But it's
extreme
true.
version.
From being half Sicilian, like the Chef Boyardee is not necessarily what we would like. Well, we're cracking open.
But it's true, though, right? I mean, it's true. When you listen, you recently get married, you're thinking about saving for a home, right? And you know, what is it that you go home and you're not eating filet mignon and you're not eating, New York, steak
New York
cuts.
strip, yeah.
You're eating whatever's on sale or the cheapest out there. That's what you're putting on the table because you're on a budget. You're on a strict budget,
Exactly.
and that's how it works, And then you get older, you go, let me have that good bottle of cognac now.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you work with this all the time. But Nickolas does a lot of our financial planning. He's like our
Exactly.
chief financial.
I have a
We
lot
don't
of
like-
titles.
We don't like to
recently.
put the word. We don't like to put the word chief in front of anything involving him.
Well-
We don't want his ego to get too
Well,
large.
you're just jealous
But-
because I have now 2 chief positions and you only have 1.
Chief-
Good. Chief financial planner and
The
chief
middle
marketing
word,
officer,
the
and
exec-
Alex is only the CEO, the chief executive. So
But you do our financial. You do a good job. He is our financial
I do a
planner.
great
He develops
job.
plans. So you're working with us all the time in terms of.
he does a good job. Sure,
It's
you're part of
it's
this firm
very
too.
good. It's very good. I have to sell the firm. So
That's
you
right.
do a
He
great-
still won't say great.
He does a great job. I agree with
He'll
you.
never say
job.
great.
It's just amazing.
There we go. That's better.
The job that
about it.
Nickolas does. But
Right. Would it kill you to say great? I mean,
it is great because you work
I
with
know.
people and say, here's what you need to be doing, right? Here's what happens if you save this much. Here's what happens if you save this much. And really, that's part of
well,
the
part of the
key.
thing what we always do, because a lot of financial planners, one of the things, and Xavier and I work closely when we do the financial planning too, right? Just to have the other perspective. But one of the things we always talk about is a lot of planners come in and right away they're trying to cut your expenses, right? And the thing we always say is like in cutting expenses, it obviously is going to be like looking at your expenses. You got to make sure you're not spending too much, etc.
Living
But
within your means.
At the same time, part of the purpose of hiring a financial planner in the first place is we want to see if you can make it in your retirement living the life you want to live.
Right, exactly.
It's
That's
not
what's
so that
important.
you can get to your retirement and then, as we mentioned before, like crack open a Chef Boyardee for dinner because you're worried you're not going to make it. So first step first, let's see if you can make it, because if you've saved enough for your retirement, you don't need to cut expenses. I was doing a hand wash. You're fine. You're set. There's no reason to start examining, crawling over your expenses and being like, well, I mean, because like with everyone always starts with the Starbucks coffee. It's $4 and you spend it every day. It's how many, hundreds over the course of a year. And at the same time, if that's part of what if you enjoy that every single
Yes.
day and you can do it, go
have
ahead
to-
and
you
do
have
it.
to be- you still have to live and you have to be happy. If that makes you happy, well, fine.
Especially
I mean,
the
that's
point of
part
your
it.
retirement. You've been working
There's
up
always
to
going to
this
be more
point.
significant decisions, right? So sometimes, I mean, Dillian, whose 10th Man we read, it's a very fun, informative little commentary, right? His major point has always been people tend to instantly gravitate to, okay, yeah, can I cut out this $4 Starbucks? And his point is, first look at, are you missing out on any really significant decisions? Like,
Right.
if you're not taking advantage of your employer's 401k plan,
That's right.
and not getting the free matching that they're going to put there,
That's going to be bigger.
That's going to be 10 times whatever is going to happen with your $4,
100
100
times, yes.
times whatever's happening with your $4 Starbucks
That's
every
right.
day, right? So first make sure you're not making significant mistakes or that you're taking advantage of the significant options available to you. And then if we need to move to,
That's right.
Right,
saving
like,
a dollar,
you can save on
$2
taxes,
here.
tax planning. If you do effective tax planning, maybe it's spend an hour more with your CPA. Like give them more information. Like because one of the things we go into the financial planning, people always tell us, you don't want your clients doing a lot of work when they come to you. But we are always like, at the same time, you have to have a vision of what your retirement's going to be like, or at least somewhat. Because if you're like, oh, I might buy a boat and go boating and go start maybe I want a yacht. That's something you have to plan
Very
on.
different, exactly.
I mean, it's because
You don't
most
throw
people
that in there
expect.
at the
'cause,
last minute. Like, I'm going to be very frugal in
Right.
my retirement, and then you retire and it's like, can I afford to buy a yacht? And your financial planner sitting there saying, I wish you had told me this 20 years ago, because then we would have been able to make this
standard.
work.
Think about it. Standard planning also says your expenses go down after your retirement. Well, what if you're going to start a garden? Like some people we know, they start and then they
But
go
what if
down.
inflation skyrockets? What are you looking at me
it
with
could
this?
be, well, I
garden
mean,
thing?
you started a garden, but the whole point is that's a hobby. That's something that you
Yeah,
know
but-
you're going to
but-
spend.
but
That's
gardening
that's something you know you're going to spend money on.
generates food.
Right,
And
true.
puts it on the
so it
table.
cuts on the other end. However,
Exactly.
it depends on what kind of garden you want to do. If you want to start a lavender garden, unless you start selling essential oils.
The essential.
Yeah, if you're pulling essential
Peace
oils
in
and you're going to start a
retirement.
whole business, that's one thing. But if you're just sort of like, I just want more flowers and I want a landscape, or I want to start a woodworking just for fun on
Yeah.
the side, and all of a sudden you're buying tools, you're buying wood, you're buying all this stuff that because you want to pursue a hobby, that's going to start taking up money, so your expenses may not go down.
Right.
If you've been working for home, your gas isn't going to go down.
It's
So
really about, I'm
it's-
almost sensing the theme also that it's the uniqueness of the person that comes in, right? Because you
Right.
sit there and say, there
Every
are certain,
person's different.
right, there's the
And
one
everybody
size
wants a
fits all,
different-
oh, your expenses go down X% in retirement on average. And then there's the actual person who walks in, whose expenses might go down, whose
Yeah.
expenses might not go down, depending what they want to do. And you have to treat them
Well,
as
there's
an
some
individual,
people that
not as
like-
part of a rubric.
Their Social Security will take care of them. So and the thing
Or
is,
they might
like,
have a pension.
or you have to have
Or
a pension,
pension.
or they have, or they're saving, so they have to pull the
Yeah.
principal. So it's problem solving.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, but and again, the most important thing is communicating. So the issue is you just chat with your client. I mean, you just have to.
let them talk,
It's
you
funny.
listen.
You have to talk to them. You have to open up, and they then open
Exactly.
up, and you get a feel for what they want, what they're looking for. Because at the very beginning, people say, "I just want to retire," and what kind of lifestyle you want to lead? Well, I
we've
don't know.
heard,
A lot of
'cause-
people's like they have no clue, right? Because they're not retired yet. They want to be retired,
Well, yes, I mean,
and
it's-
they want
it's
to figure out
understandable,
how,
right?
what kind of
Everyone's
lifestyle
retired
can I
somewhere.
have, right?
Exactly what time
But you
can
want
I
to find out what makes them click, and what
Exactly.
makes their life enjoyable. Because you don't want to be able to take all this part out and say, "Holy cow, that's the part that I enjoy
You make
about
it
life."
to 150,
But you'll be miserable.
But all we have to do is like cut your expenses in half.
That's right.
And they'll be
Yeah.
like, sure.
So you
it's-
won't run out of money until long after you're dead.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Congratulations.
You'll leave lots to your kids.
You know, I had a question for
Parents are so
Nickolas.
happy.
Oh, you do?
Sure, I
Whoa.
had a prepared question.
Oh, a
You know, I mean, I
prepared-
prepare all my questions.
no
I mean, I
fair.
got a
They
list
said-
here.
you said
of
you
Now
questions.
weren't
you
gonna
get to
prepare
now you
anything.
get to experience what this is like when
All
he
right,
comes
shoot,
in.
give it your best shot.
We've discussed what we're going to
No,
talk about, and then he has a different
you know,
question.
because I know
Live,
Nickolas,
I need
he enjoys, going out. He enjoys really parading around Charlottesville, doing different things.
Parading.
So,
As anyone who's
not in
knows his-
costume, I'm just
as
saying.
anyone
Yeah.
who's seen his Instagram feed knows he likes.
That's right.
I like food. I like to
Good
eat.
Food,
He likes
drink,
food.
that kind of stuff. So,
Oh, that's true, too.
Given the fact that we are now beginning to once again feel some pressure about, the COVID, right, and the Delta, what is your viewpoint on how that may impact the small business again in Charlottesville? Because I mean, we're finally we're finally blooming here, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
small businesses, and not the way it should be, but we're finally, and now there's still this aura of nervousness of like,
Yeah.
what can happen? So, how do you think that's going to impact some of the businesses that talk about some of the businesses that you see or restaurants
It
you see?
depends
Yeah,
on,
places
listen,
you've
if
been
the
going.
business has survived COVID, especially the restaurants and the wineries and stuff, they've done it already by adapting to COVID, the type of restrictions that they needed, right? They pivoted. We just heard that this morning too. But think about it, because like what wineries did was, and we saw that a lot of them told us they did this, is they went from, instead of like you do a tasting where like you sit in front of the barman and they went to the QR codes, right, that you scan on your phone, and they started doing flights. I mean, they're still doing that because it's a great business. I mean, I've been going.
Where have you been recently?
We've been in because my girlfriend lives in Crozet, which is great because I can just like on the way to the wineries pick her up. Hi, babe. Good morning. 'Cause she's gonna
Shout
watch
out.
this for breakfast. She's asleep right now, so you have
Shout
to do all
out.
the good shout out.
Oh,
Right?
wow.
And so like there's all these wineries that are out there, right? King Family's out there. You've got Grace Estates. You've got we went to Flying Fox, Valley Roads, all these places, and it's great because first of all the visuals of the location is it's
I can imagine.
Crozet. I mean
Yes.
it's beautiful. Like you're right, the
views.
mountain is literally right there. You throw a football and the mountain will catch it. So I like that.
So join some of
wow.
the teams we know in these mountains.
Yeah, well,
The,
and
the
sense
New York
that,
Giants could use this
it
mountain.
lands on the roll. Yeah, well, listen, it's a mountain's big enough, But the whole point is going inside or indoors for a tasting,
You may not have to use
you may not you don't have to anymore because they found out this new system a lot because of COVID, right? You're just at you'll take a table, right? Oops, sorry, Judah. You take a table. My hands move around a lot.
So a table, you're like your father.
You grab a
Pete says,
table.
calm
Yeah,
down.
no. You grab a table and you order, or you'll go grab the, and they'll bring you a flight. So they'll bring you like 4 or 5 glasses poured with some wine and the little piece of paper that tells you about the wines.
Okay.
And it tells you everything you need to know. And if you want to ask questions, they'll be there. But other than that, they'll leave you and go back and serve someone else. So it's actually an even better system because in the sense that you don't have to wait your turn to talk with the person behind as they go through every single wine. Here's your piece of paper.
Oh, I got
do
you.
your reading.
Okay, gotcha.
Because
yes.
the way the tastings used to work, you used to go up to the desk.
That's right. You
and
go to the bar and then they talk.
they pour you, and then they
That's
tell you
right.
this is that, and then this is how we did this. Whereas now there's a piece of paper that tells you that.
That's right.
And think about the restaurants. The restaurants that have already gone through COVID, they know how to plan it. They'll know how to react. The only ones you would worry about are ones that have opened since then.
Yeah.
So I can't say
Exactly.
I've been to any necessarily that I know for certain have opened since then.
Since COVID. Where are some of the restaurants you've been doing? Because I know we've done some wineries. What are some restaurants you've been hyped about recently?
Well, I was really hyped about Little Star because we went.
Little Star.
So when we went to the Charlottesville Opera, because it was true, we had tickets and we went and it was great. Right, we saw La Boheme.
La
I mean,
Boheme.
Charlottesville Opera joined us on the show.
They
So
did. That was great. That was a lot of fun. So we went to Little Star, and Little Star is from what I heard, the chef is a student of Jose Andres, who's the famous Spanish chef, right?
Nice.
And he's doing a lot from what
Is that
I've
the
heard
guy
on
that
Argentine.
infuses?
No, that's not the same guy.
other guy.
Are you
Okay,
talking
thank
about
goodness.
Obuli?
Oh, yeah.
No, it's
okay.
not Obuli. No,
Thank
it's
good.
different. It's
Okay,
a different
good.
guy. Yeah.
I like this guy.
No. He actually, the funny thing is, he actually was supporting local Virginia wines too because he was on Trevor Noah's show with drinking Early Mountain Vineyard, which is just 40 minutes from here.
Wow.
And he was just like showing off their
national
rosé.
show.
Yeah, no, Virginia, their wine scene is starting to pick up because now the winemakers are starting to figure out what works,
What works here in
doesn't
Virginia?
work.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's important.
No, I mean, I had a friend
And they
who
discovered-
just returned from Michigan and said, do they have wineries up there as well?
The ice
breweries?
wine.
Ice
And he
wine,
said,
I was just gonna say
he
that.
said
It's
it's
ice
not
wine.
comparable. Like the Charlottesville region wines are better than anything he had up there.
Really?
That's how good
Charlottesville.
Yeah, like this area's
Wow.
wine was better
we're
than
on
anything
the
he had
parallel,
up there.
right? We are Virginia is technically parallel with California and Italy, but the
listen,
difference is the humidity.
The humidity, I was
the
gonna
humidity
say.
was a problem. So the way they figured out how to solve it for a lot of these vineyards is the hills, right? Because they do it in Austria too, right? You put the wine on a hill so that the breeze blows through and cools off the wine.
Okay.
So so they started figuring out solutions to the humidity problem, right? Because otherwise, it's not the weather.
So I
is
got to
actually
put my
pretty
zucchini
good.
plants right by the hill, so when
If the
the
humidity is
breeze
the problem-
comes, it dries those zucchini flowers.
Well, we've noticed that the
Yeah.
stuff that was on your hill did better than when we moved it down and died. We had the peach tree on the hill, and then we
Well, it's
moved it
different,
lower,
though.
and then it passed away. Rest in peaches, but
Oh, goodness. Is that
Oh,
the
this-
first pun
I don't know.
on Today
Is it?
Mañana?
I think so.
I don't know. Oh, my goodness. The
I
first
love
pun on Today
puns,
Mañana.
so it might happen again if ever I'm on.
Oh, wow.
Either way,
So you've been,
so
tell
the
us-
wineries are the wineries. So what was that we were going to ask?
No, go for it, go for
No,
it.
what were you going to say?
So at Little Star, you had some local wines, or he incorporates it into his menu. What were you?
were talking about
you were
the-
talking
Wine.
I
Well, I was
guess
talking about
wine.
wine separate because when we were at Little Star, we had sangria. So I don't know what wine they used,
sangria.
but the
Okay.
sangria was great. It was amazing. So I mean, and again, the one thing is you can tell that there's that little Spanish influence because in certain parts of Spain they'll put cinnamon in their sangria,
Oh, okay,
which is
okay.
not something that you see. But at Little Star, he put it in.
Nice.
Right. So I love when they do little touches and you're like, oh,
That's a
you know,
Moorish influence, yeah.
Well,
Cinnamon.
most definitely because
Yeah.
the cinnamon filter. I mean, listen, it could have come from through Venice too.
Yeah.
That's true.
So it could have flowed from, but either way, it's in Spain. So a lot of places in Spain will do it. What are you laughing about Spain for?
I'm smiling.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing.
Oh.
I'm
The
smiling.
history.
I'm
Well,
happy.
well, that's
just
what I
so
love is the
happy.
history too. Especially when they start fusing, because he fuses Latin American food into his, which is what
Right.
the Latin American, because it's spicy. And there was a lot, like we had, of course, because
Croquetas.
my girlfriend loves sandwiches, so we were there on a fancy meal, and she was like, "We got to order the crispy pork sandwich." Which Alex did not get a chance to have because they
It
had
wasn't on the
changed-
menu the day I went.
Yeah,
I was
they
like,
took
the
it off like
crispy
within the
pork
week.
sandwich?
What else I love about
Oh.
the Charlottesville restaurants right now is that they're going through and they'll change their menus. I mean, Tavern and
reflect the ingredients.
because like Tavern and Grocery, they were listed. Their executive chef was one of the top executive chefs in the country.
Wow.
So
And right here, they're right on.
they are
at the end of
right
Market
across
Street.
from they're across from
Across from
They're
Feast.
across from Feast, right at Market Street, and like his menu is different from when I first went. So like sometimes even when my friends are in town, we go there, and he'll do twice actually. I ended up going through Restaurant Week, not this week, unfortunately, but and his 3-course meals are just perfect.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, and it's different because he's got that little southern flair, but then he'll add he'll add
Well,
elements.
didn't you have one dish there that was like little baby octopus?
They
with
had the Portuguese stew,
linguiça
and
sausage.
they had the imported octopus, and I think the sausage was imported too from
Wow.
Portugal.
From Portugal?
From Portugal.
Wow.
But the octopi were really tiny, so good.
Oh, they're great, aren't they? Oof.
They were amazing. Yeah, I loved it. Because they have the little heads and everything, which a lot of people probably turned off. But like, I loved it. I was looking, and I was like,
No, absolutely,
they have
'cause they're
heads.
small. They're small. You
Heads
can eat the
around
whole thing.
Well, yeah, sure, because you can.
It's like the baby
they're that
sardine,
size.
the small sardines. You eat the whole thing.
Right, because they're
Yeah.
so small.
Yeah.
Anna Franktervilla Miniaci watching from
Oh, hi, Anna.
from New Jersey says rest in peaches LOL. So
Yeah.
apparently the audience likes the pun.
So does that mean
gonna
they want to get
start-
rid of him? Rest in peaches? We
No, I think
oh,
it's
that she
I
liked
think
the
it's a weird
pun.
thing. She liked
You
the
got
pun.
added puns. I love them. Yeah.
I think she's saying she liked the pun. Oh, goodness.
That's all right. So we got one viewer who likes the pun. One
viewer likes the
And this
pun.
is Anna. I mean,
Yeah,
who's-
but listen, nobody's saying great talk on
Part of
interest
our-
rates.
part of our
Xavier.
nationwide
That was the
audience.
best highlight of my day was listening about Federal Reserve and spreads.
because we're reaching a different level of.
Oh, sure.
people, Yeah.
This is the intellectual
Yeah,
level
this
that
is
Xavier and
food.
I
Well,
are
listen,
capable of
if you
reaching.
want to go further, we could talk about Hegel and Schopenhauer, and I'd be down.
Let's keep the audience.
Or Aristotle, because
Indeed.
Alex always makes fun of me because he says I can't go through a conversation without either mentioning Aristotle, the Romans, or classical music. So we've mentioned opera.
There you are.
We have not
so
mentioned
we're done.
the Romans,
we're done.
but
Let's-
we
let's-
did.
let's
I will
just-
throw
let's
in
just
that
cut it there, right?
Aristotle.
Let's cut our losses.
I love
Let's cut our
Aristotle.
losses.
so
Let's
cut
get
our
out of this
losses.
before it goes too deep into
Into the weeds, yeah.
into Romans. But we probably should have him on more often.
We'll talk about
we
Roman
should.
provincial administration and
No,
how
no,
the
no,
federal
the-
government could take
No,
some
more
lessons
places you've
from.
been.
You
No.
are. I mean, that's a good one.
Again, some of us don't have time to go to all these restaurants, so we got to figure out where
Oh
to go.
yeah, and
from
I
you.
have plans for more because just looking for people through the show, there's one I think they're at the Dairy Market. I have to do more research called South Mid Central that they're doing things that are Latin American stuff.
I noticed
Jerry's
that.
nodding his head, so like
Meaning-
I want to go there. Yeah.
Oh, he says it's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, we got to go.
So like there's those. I mean, even when we tried 10 for the first time.
Japanese on
okay.
Like,
sushi
and
on
they're
the downtown
getting
mall.
because they get, and a lot of people don't. I mean, unless you talk again, we talk to everyone. So just talking to the people who are passionate there and the waiters, and they're like, "Hey, we're on the first auction block for the fish," which means they're getting the best
Wow,
fish
the
in the
freshest
country.
fish.
Freshest fish. They're on the competition for the freshest fish in the country.
Wow.
So like, you just taste their. Blue
So when you
crab
want
bowl.
sushi, you got to go there as
Oh,
opposed
yeah.
to we're on the bottom of the list. It's like,
During the pandemic, I did takeout there.
what
you
kind
know,
of fish is this again?
Yeah.
Wow.
Kind of fish. Oh,
No, there's
fresh
so many
fish.
good restaurants in Charlottesville. Really, the quality is just
It's
incredible.
unbelievable. Yeah.
It's incredible. So we're lucky to live here.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
we are.
It's a
We
great
are.
place. It's a great place. Oh,
Well, this has
show
been
over,
This is
right?
actually perfect. This has been a pleasure because you were
Well,
also
you waited too
part
long
of
to
the
bring
reason.
Melody on, and then you waited too
You're-
long to bring me on, and now you cut me short. No, I'm just
We're not
kidding.
cutting you short. We're actually we're right on
We're
time.
right on time.
And this is
We're on
perfect
time.
because you're part of the reason I think you acquired for us both our guests for the next
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yes.
That's
the
right.
I
next
mean,
2
next
weeks is
week,
all.
next week we've got CVille Picnic.
Okay.
going to be joining us, as well as
Oh,
Samantha Strawn from Stonefield.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to talk a little about the shops at Stonefield,
Okay.
what's going on there.
Nice. That'd be interesting. Find
that'll
out
be
what's going on there.
interesting to
Especially
see-
following up the conversation about the Fashion Scare Mall, excuse me.
Oh, as Jerry's
As Jerry likes to say, Fashion Scare Mall, because that was one of the areas that even you brought up was one of the top places to be in Charlottesville. So
Yeah, it was Stonefield. And then 2 weeks from now, we're also going to have Nikki Hastings from the CVille Bio Hub,
Right.
also and Ruiz Landscaping,
Ah,
a Latino
Ruiz.
business here in Charlottesville.
father-son
Doing some
duo
great-
own their own
Oh,
landscaping company.
Nice. So
It's
That
nice when the
one's gonna
father
be
and
a
the sons own the
bilingual, yeah.
business, isn't it?
Isn't
I
it
mean, we
nice
should go with
father and sons
landscaping or
working
something.
together?
Depends on the father.
Maybe he's thinking it depends on the sons.
Probably is, but
But so we got 2 really exciting weeks coming up.
We are, yes.
On Today Mañana, so be sure to join us for those. Just
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
so am I.
This has been a lot of fun. Thank you, Nickolas, for showing up.
Thanks for joining us today. It's been.
I'll be back.
He'll be back. He'll be back. He's like either like Schwarzenegger or like a bad penny. Up to the audience to decide how he'll be back. But as always, right? He is part of Emergent Financial Services, which presents.
And he does great
our show.
planning. I mean,
He does great planning. Amazing
I
planning.
plan to go a lot more
At
restaurants in
Emergent,
Charlottesville.
Emergent Financial Services, and just always this will be fun to have him continue to be on, and 2 great weeks ahead of us on the I Love CVille Network. So that's awesome. We really appreciate, of course, all our sponsors who make this possible: Emergent Financial Services, Cristel, Noel, State Farm Agency. Cristel, we don't have Cristel. I miss Cristel.
gotta
We
come
don't
back.
have-
Yeah, she's gotta come back.
She's so good. And everything that they do, just really know their customers really well. And then, of course, Forward Adelante, Latino networking group here in Charlottesville. Keep tuned for hopefully events related to Forward Adelante in the pipeline on the way here. And of course, couldn't do this without I Love CVille Network. Jerry Judah behind the camera, making all of us look good today.
We're giving a hard time today. Sorry, Judah. I keep bumping the mic.
Bumping the mic to Judah's like,
I was like, I'm not
they
going to
had
bump
to
the
bring on
camera.
Nick. He had to bump the mic. But always appreciate the work that he puts in behind
Always,
the camera, and always
always.
appreciate you, the audience. Thanks so much for the questions. Thanks to Fud Guy for watching, to Olga for watching, to all
Anna
of
for
Anna,
watching.
Francavilla Miniaci for watching. Just always awesome to have all our guests from around the country and the world.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, New Jersey, all these places watching our show. So just really, really appreciate all of you and look forward to seeing you all next week. But until then, as we always say here on the show, hasta mañana.